This is Women's Tech Radio,
a show on the Jupiter Broadcasting Network interviewing interesting women in technology, exploring their roles and how they're successful in technology careers. I'm Paige.
And I'm Angela.
Well, Angela, today we're joined by Janice. She is the founder of ChickTECH, an awesome nonprofit that reaches out to girls and women in technology, trying to work on engagement. They have an amazing high school program that she gets into, and we talk about her career and how she's trying to solve a lot of the problems that she ran into when she got started.
It is a very awesome interview. And before we get into it, I just want to mention that you can support Women's Tech Radio by going to patreon.com/today. There is no minimum donation amount, but you can set a recurring monthly payment, which will assist in Women's Tech Radio in continuing. Patreon.com/today.
And we get started by asking Janice what she's up to today.
Well, today I am working on ChickTECH, of course, as every single day of my life. But today we're actually interviewing for a program director so that we can bring on staff people for the organization, which is exciting.
Oh my goodness, congratulations.
Thank you.
So for people in our audience who aren't familiar, what is ChickTECH?
Yeah, so ChickTECH is a nonprofit. We're headquartered here in Portland. Our mission is basically to get and keep girls and women in high tech. We are now in 8 states and 10 different cities, which is pretty exciting. We run programs for women who are already in technology or looking to get into technology. We run a program for high school students, girls who aren't yet engaged in technology but who have the aptitude to do well in it. And we run summer camps. We're launching a job board and culture consulting for companies. We do all the things.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Wow, no wonder you need staff.
And you're the secretary at ChickTECH, right?
Yeah, pretty much that's how it feels most of the time.
It can't be limited to one thing. When you're running your own thing, you're doing all the hats.
Yeah, so yeah. What the people on the other end of the podcast might not know is Janice is actually the founder of ChickTECH.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. So
yes.
Tell me about that journey. I know it's a really interesting story. Like how, why did you start a startup?
Why did you do this?
Yes, thank you.
Why would I do this to myself? I mean,
pretty much.
Yeah, so there's a few different reasons that I started ChickTECH. So my undergrad's actually computer engineering, although whenever people see me, even though they know I run a women in tech organization, they think I'm not technical. So that's one of the reasons that I started ChickTECH was to really start breaking the stereotypes around who is technical and who can fit into the technology industry. I actually ended up leaving technology after I got my degree based on a variety of negative factors. I had imposter syndrome. I just really didn't feel like I fit in. I felt like everyone was better at tech than I was, even though objectively looking back at my grades and everything else, I was doing better than the others. So I don't know where I got these ideas from. But also...
What was your degree in?
Computer engineering.
Oh,
It's okay.
Wow. Way to go, Paige.
I know, you just tune out.
But it's cool, though, that you got the degree and then you're like, yeah, I'm going to take a break.
Yeah.
But how'd you get back into it then?
So one of the reasons, the other reason that I left was because there was a lot of issues around pregnancy discrimination, sexual harassment, and actually sabotage by other women in the technology field. And so one of the reasons that I started ChickTECH was to give other women a welcoming and inclusive community and support system so that kind of thing wouldn't deter them from being in technology. And I had actually, so after I left technology, I ended up getting my MBA. I focused on sustainability. And then I worked at the worst company ever for about 9 months and realized there are actually worse places than the technology industry. So that's, I guess, a good thing to know. And then I quit there, started my own consulting thing, and ended up volunteering at someone else's event to get minority kids more excited about technology careers. So that actually inspired me to create my own program for girls and women based on things that I learned there.
So you've got this idea. You've had some experiences, most of them bad, apparently. You had some good experiences in college. Oh, I guess that's a good question. Like while you were in college in the program, like how did that feel in academia? Like how would you compare that academia to, I guess, maybe what you see in tech professionally today, or maybe in this other terrible experience of the company that will not be named?
That's a good question. I mean, I would say that they're all about the same. I mean, I'd say that there are issues. The issues that I've found when I was in college are the same kinds of issues that I'm seeing in the industry itself.
So you probably persevered through the degree because you're like, this is what I want to do. But then you got into the real world and you were like, oh, it still happens.
Yeah, part of it was that. Part of it was I just hate quitting. But I really loved programming. I really, embedded programming, working with the hardware, getting the hardware to do what I wanted it to do was really fun and empowering. And, half the time frustrating, but the rest was fun and empowering. Just like all coding, right? And and I mean, like I said, I was great at it. But when the idea of an interview like sends you into a panic attack because you're so sure this is going to be when somebody finds out that you're actually terrible at what you want to do, that's kind of the time where you start to rethink things. Yeah, but there was definitely, I had issues with, every time that you walk into the room and everyone turns around to stare at you every single day, it just really is exhausting. And every time you question people or every time people are questioning you, I mean, like, oh, are you really technical? Oh, do you don't really know what you're doing, like not looking at you as like a peer or a fellow expert or whatever. It's just so exhausting to have to prove yourself every single day.
Yeah. I could totally imagine.
Yeah, that burden is unreal. I think it's just, and it's so common, and it's in a lot of different places. It's not just tech, but so you do a lot of work with young women or girls, chicks, I guess, and to kind of get them into STEM. What actually got you into it? Like, why were you interested in going into computer science as a young woman?
So I was on the math team when I was in high school.
Mathlete.
So I was really good at it. Like I was better than everyone else on there. Objectively, I can say that because they ranked us. Anyway, so
that is such a geek thing to say.
Well, whatever. And so I got all these awards around math. And what was interesting though was that in my high school in Wisconsin, so I went to high school in Wisconsin for the first 3 years, and then we moved right before I turned 17, to do my senior year in Churchill in Eugene. And it turns out there was this class called C++ programming, like AP class in my school in Wisconsin, and somehow all the boys from the math team ended up in this class, but nobody really suggested it to me. And I didn't even realize until later, like what it even was. So we moved to Oregon, and I did my senior year. Still didn't do any technical stuff. I did computer stuff, but it was all word processing. The only reason that I ended up in technology was because my grandma one time was like, hey, you're pretty good at math. You should check into some engineering stuff. And I'm like, what? So I ended up looking at it, and I ended up narrowing my careers down to either international business or computer engineering, knowing very little, of course, when you're a teenager, you know very little about any of these things, but knowing, almost nothing about either career. And going in, started my first programming class at OSU. I went in there, I started that summer, and I went in not understanding what programming was. So I went into C programming, our first, the first CS class that I was supposed to take. And I didn't have enough context to understand that programming was what made the things on the computer run.
Wow.
And that was, the start of the imposter syndrome, right? Is everybody else knew what they were doing. They, maybe they didn't know C, but they knew other programming languages. They had played around with a lot of stuff. They had done gaming. And I had done none of that. And I had to figure out, like, okay, we're learning this programming language, but what do I actually do with it? What can I actually do? And that's one of the reasons that with ChickTECH High School, we actually focus on finding, basically, right, when you create an organization, a lot of times it's about you.
Scratch your own itch.
Yep.
yeah, so I created ChickTECH High School looking for the girls who were like me, who had aptitude, but who nobody had ever really pushed into technology, and who, if they don't accidentally fall into it, aren't going to find it. And they may be missing out on an amazing career that would be really fulfilling to them. And just really assuming they know nothing and then giving them that knowledge coming in so they don't feel like everybody knows more than they do and that they're just stupid or they're not cut out for this kind of thing.
That is exactly what happened to me in high school. I, as a junior, tried a beginning programming class, and it was all guys. I was the only girl, and I knew the instructor, but still, like, it was all completely over my head. There was no, like, individual attention for the fact that I didn't have any platform for beginning it and was just lost. So I ended up dropping out.
Yeah. And I hear that from a lot of women.
Not out of high school, but out of that class.
Right.
I actually graduated a year early, so.
Good. That's much better than dropping out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear that from so many women, or, just the fact that they just accidentally ended up there, or, and we just need to be so much better at telling these girls and what their options are and not just giving them the choices, but encouraging them and providing the emotional support and the understanding that everyone starts out that way and that's okay. But I still hear, even from our girls now, I mean, it's almost 2016, and I'll read on the surveys or I'll talk to the girls, and, I'll see things like, "Thank you so much for ChickTECH. It made me realize that I can stand up to the sexism in my engineering class." This is a high school junior. Like, it's crazy that she's having to deal with sexism as a high school junior in this day and age. And, I talked to one girl who ended up going down to the Corvallis kickoff event. I think it was last year. But she didn't want to do robotics because she had tried to do a robotics class and the teacher was just inept and didn't help anyone and just told them to work on their own projects. And all the boys had their own projects that they had already been working on. So they just did that. And this teacher offered no guidance. And she and the other girl were completely lost and just felt like they weren't good at it. And that wasn't the case at all, and this teacher potentially lost his only 2 girl students because he just decided, to not help them at all or give them any context or even a project to work on in this robotics class.
So it sounds like, or the way it's been framed so far, you work with women and girls that want to be in tech, but do you also reach out to high schools? Like, is that something like building a network of teachers that are willing to go this extra step to help girls and women be in this field?
So what we do is we work. So for the high school program is a year-long series of opportunities for 100 high school girls in each city. So we work with local high schools and we find teachers who are willing to nominate girls for our program who aren't yet engaged and who aren't, not that we would ever turn anyone away because they are on the robotics team, because they absolutely need support too. But we're trying to find the girls who aren't opting in. Mm-hmm. And so we take nominations, we send out congratulations letters telling them they've been nominated, they get to hang out with 99 other girls just like them. And we haven't worked a lot with teachers to do, I don't want to call it re-education because that sounds
right
harsh, but like help them to understand how they can support the girls in their classes more so that they feel empowered to be in STEM and enjoy STEM and be a part of it.
I think continuing education.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Or just helping them to reframe, how they're doing encouragement or understanding the issues, understanding unconscious bias, that kind of thing.
Right. So then I'm still trying to understand the service. So you said that a girl could be nominated and then spend a year with 99 other girls. Is that within their own high school? Do you guys rent a classroom and teach it? Or do you have, how does that work?
Yeah, so maybe actually just tell us the story from the girls' perspective of what ChickTECH looks like.
What we do is we bring in 100 high school girls. It's a year-long program. They come to, it's not in their schools. It's from all different schools. So teachers can nominate up to 15 girls from their school. And what's for example, the Portland area, we probably pull from 22 schools at this point. And they come in, they go to a kickoff event. Here it's been at PSU. It's usually at a university. Sometimes it's at a tech company. They go through one workshop. They have about 10 hours of project time where they actually create something. There's 7 workshops, and so they get to choose which one they're most excited about. And then at the end, we do a tech show where they show off what they've created. Over the weekend, we invite the community, we invite teachers, friends, family, etc., so that they can be really proud of what they've made. And there's no competition because it's not about somebody making something better than someone else. It's about everyone being creative and everyone being talented and making something unique. After that, we have a mentor program that runs from December until June or September, depending on the chapter, where they're matched one-on-one with a man or woman in the technology industry to get career advice, learn new skills, etc. We also do monthly workshops after that kickoff event to help them to not just learn new skills, but broaden their idea of what a technology career looks like. So we might do one on filmmaking or green energy or on Python or robotics, right? And then in the end, we work with tech companies to offer a limited number of ChickTECH focused internships. So they're not always ChickTECH exclusive, but we try to make them as exclusive as possible to our girls. And we work with the girls on their resumes and mock interview skills so that they can do well as they're looking for these internships. So it's really, we don't ever have all 100 girls in the same room again after we do the kickoff event, because one of the big things is one, they're always so busy. It's crazy how many things they're doing, but also we don't want them to feel intimidated coming in, because most of them, about 2/3 of them, have never done anything in technology before. And so they come in thinking they're the only ones, even though we tell them 5 million times, you're not the only one. Everybody's not going to know anything. They still worry. And if we were like, hey, you know nothing about technology, you're intimidated by this, sign up for this year-long program where you have to go to something every single month, that would be scary, right? That would be stressful. And so what we say is come to the kickoff event, and then if you like it and you had fun, come to something else. Also, pick and choose what workshops you're interested in. Do you want a mentor? We get about 30 to 40% of the girls choosing to have a mentor. We get about 2/3 or more coming back for something throughout the year. And I think that's great. Even if a girl comes to that kickoff event and says, I thought I might like programming and now I realize I don't, and I'm going to go do something else over here. That's totally fine, because one, it still increased her confidence in her skills and abilities around technology. And two, at least she was able to choose for herself rather than having someone else choose a career for her based on gender stereotypes or personality stereotypes.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Yeah, I like that you. So are you actually working on tracking a bunch of this? Sounds like you've got some good numbers. What are you tracking? Why are you tracking? This is one of the things that I kind of talk about with my groups is how do we pick metrics to track and what shows success in our programs? Because I think it's something that kind of falls through the cracks with a lot of nonprofits.
Yeah. So we do, so for our women focused programs like ACTW and meetup groups, we haven't figured out how to do that without being weird, besides figuring out who's coming, or how often people are coming or whatever. But it's kind of weird to ask a group of women, how confident are you now?
Why do you think that's weird?
It feels formulaic a little bit when you're an adult and people ask you that kind of thing, as opposed to hey, we're just all a community together, learning together, So that's one of the things that we're working on figuring out in 2016. But for our high school program, we do pre and post surveys. We do a pre and post survey around the kickoff event, and then we do a year-end survey at the end of in June or July when most of the programming is done. And we don't focus on how much they know. We don't care how much HTML they know, because we have Google. Nobody cares, right? But what we do care about is how they felt when they were doing it, right? So we care about, we ask them how confident they are in their technology skills, and we ask them before and after. We also do a reflective one, So for example, we kicked off in 5 of our 6 active cities in November. Out of the results that I've gotten back so far, we went from Oh, shoot. I can't remember that statistic off the top of my head. I shouldn't have brought it up. They're all new statistics, and I haven't memorized them all yet.
That's okay.
That's okay.
So I guess you would say maybe that you're the most interested with the high school girls in the psychological impact of your program?
Yeah, exactly. So there's like the social cognitive career theory where it talks about like the sense of belonging, the interest in a career, but like how confident you feel and how confident you feel that you're going to do well and succeed in something is really important. And so not only do we look at their sense of belonging and their confidence, but of course then we also measure their how interested they are in a technology career. So for that one, I do remember that one off the top of my head. So when we ask them, how interested are you in a technology career? We had 46% of them saying they were very interested or very interested in a technology career before that kickoff weekend, and that went up to 89% after that kickoff weekend. So we showed a huge increase in just in general, hey, do you think you might look at this as a career, right? And that's only 2 days. And so we're excited to see, when we do the year-end surveys, how, did we keep them excited that entire year? Because that's also a big thing, right? Like you can increase people's interest and confidence for a couple days, right? But does that stay?
Yeah.
And so I'm excited for that. Part of this Adobe Foundation grant that we just got, which we were super excited about, includes funding for a third-party evaluator to check all of our results and do a lot of really interesting stuff. And so I'm hoping by mid-spring we'll have some really great reports based on the last surveys.
Oh, that's very cool. Awesome. I hope you publish a bunch of that. I think it could be really impactful for our community.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it.
So meeting you, it's always been interesting to see like how you have actually managed, I think, to kind of fulfill both of your college wishes of becoming like an international businessman or person and a computer scientist. And like, do you feel like that's kind of been the path that you kind of were going down the whole time? Like, I don't know. It sounds interesting.
It's all been following what I'm interested in and trying new things. So after I worked at the worst company ever, I pretty much decided that no one should ever be allowed to have that much control over your life and be allowed to make you that miserable and you have to just sit there and take it. And so that was one of the big reasons that I started doing consulting stuff. And I really enjoyed working with small businesses, and especially if they only had one person that was working on it, as a sole founder, like being their emotional support and business support, right? And helping to encourage them and continue on. Yeah, I mean, it's just been taking advantage of the things that come across my path and just working hard on those things and putting passion into things, because I think that's one of the, so I took this, I don't know if either of you have taken the StrengthsFinder test.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Love
So my top one is empathy, which is both my biggest strength and biggest weakness. And then I have like some strategic ones. I have like 3 strategic ones. And my last one is activator.
Oh.
And so what I've found, an activator is basically, taking someone from like an idea to action and like encouraging them to like do something, right? And so that helped with the consulting stuff, because sometimes people will be kind of stuck or, a little paralyzed because it'd be new. With volunteers and with ChickTECH, like that's been really strong and really helpful for what we've been trying to accomplish, is like just taking what I'm passionate about and telling other people about it. People like passionate people, they like it when people are excited about something and care about something and believe in it enough to put their life's energy into it. But also, just getting them to go from like, oh yeah, that's a great idea, to let's do this, and especially as we're looking at all these new chapters, starting a new chapter is a big deal, right? And being able to help them to realize that if you want to make a big change, you need to put effort into it. Like you can't make a huge change in something by, scooping, giving scoops of rice to the homeless at, soup kitchen once a week for an hour, right? Like that's absolutely impactful and useful. But if you want to make big change,
learn how to grow rice.
Yeah, join me. And then we can really make this nationwide movement. And that's really what gets me up in the morning and gets me excited, and keeps me going, is just creating this community. And I look at all of my chapters, and it's not just, it's not a business arrangement. It's these are my friends, these are my community, and these are my family, So I don't know. I got a little away from your question.
No, that's okay.
That was good.
I have a twofold question. It's basically about the tools that you use on a daily basis, the different programs or anything that helps you do your job better. But I also, in coordination with that, what tools do you recommend for girls that are not high school age for learning code or getting into or do you know of any?
Or I guess what at high school age too? Like, what do you recommend?
That's a good question. So one of the things that we try to do when we're doing our workshops is one of the goals is to get them to go to other groups and events. So we send them home with a list of resources, like check out all this cool stuff online, check out all these local groups that you can be a part of. When we're doing our workshops, we really try to do open source and or free software, so that if their family doesn't have a lot of money, they can still download it if they have a computer at home and play with different things. We've done, trying to think of any good ones off the top of my head in terms of that, but like Scratch. We haven't used that a lot for high schoolers, but for younger kids, it's pretty awesome. App Inventor with from MIT. I don't remember who owns it now. And really a lot of what we encourage is joining more groups to get that the interaction, the in-person interaction. I have been told, I haven't looked at it a lot, but like code.org looks pretty awesome. Somebody actually made me sit down and look at it for a little bit, which is a good way to make me do things, is when you're right there forcing me. Mm-hmm. And that looked really cool. And that's something I'm actually going to start recommending. We also are working on partnering with Treehouse. They're going to give us some free accounts that we can offer to our girls who have mentors, so that their mentors can work with them on different things. We haven't started that yet, but we're pretty excited about that. Yeah, for people who are not children, I also like Lynda with a Y, lynda.com, but because it costs money every month and we are not able to get any free accounts, we don't talk about that with the girls.
Yeah, I mean that's the barrier to entry is always a really important problem.
Yeah, exactly. And that's like our high school program is completely free, and we offer transportation and food. And we also, as needed, we offer childcare stipends for teen parents if they'd like to come and need someone to be able to watch their kid.
That's great.
So we really try to lower that barrier to entry as much as possible. Like trying to make it not feel scary, trying to make it just feel like a really fun thing that you can go to and be part of a community and learn some fun stuff, Yeah,
you mentioned earlier, I meant to discuss this sooner, but you mentioned pregnancy discrimination was one of the things that was not very good in the work field. Was it that, did people give up on you because they were like, oh, she's going to go anyway once the baby comes? Or like, what was that all about?
Yeah. So I have 2 kids. So I was actually a teen parent myself. So I had my son when I was 16. But after I graduated from my undergrad, my significant other and I had decided to have a child. And so that's my daughter, Caitlin. And there were 2 companies that I interviewed with here locally, pretty big names. And one of them actually flat out told me that she would hire me, and both of these were women. She would hire me, but my maternity leave was going to be inconvenient for her team. And so she was going to go with someone else.
Oh, wow.
The other one, actually, they had offered me the job, but then there was a hiring freeze, like before I was pregnant, then there was a hiring freeze for 4 months. So then when they were able to offer me the position, I was, 3.5 months pregnant or so. And we were down to like the last nitty gritty pieces. Like we had the salary down, but not like the relocation amount. Like I just wanted like a little bit more. Right. And so we were negotiating this, and I let the guy, like, this is a they're not headquartered here. And so I was talking to a guy in HR elsewhere, and I was like, I just want to let you know, because I didn't want to feel uncomfortable, like walking in the first day and be like, surprise, look, I'm pregnant.
Right.
Because that feels weird.
Yes.
And I did a lot of research on the internet before saying anything. It's a very stressful thing. And so I ended up telling him, I'm like, just so you know, I'm about 3.5, 4 months pregnant. And he's like, oh, that shouldn't be an issue. And I'm thinking, no, it shouldn't be an issue, but he's like, I'll let the hiring manager know, it should be fine. This was like a Wednesday. And he's like, I'll get you your offer will be to you by tomorrow or Friday. And the offer never came. And they finally call me. The guy calls me and he's like, well, the team's decided that they really need someone with more experience than you have. And I'm like thinking like, wait, you had 4 months to figure out you needed someone with more experience. Like, clearly I'm an entry-level person who just graduated from college, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you suddenly realize this fact immediately after I tell you I'm pregnant?
Right.
Like, that's interesting. What interesting timing you have.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't quite like understand it at that point. Like when you're kind of in shock. Like, I had already like rented an apartment because I was in Corvallis, and so I had let my son's school know that we were moving. I had rented an apartment up here in Portland, and
wow,
everything. And I had to be like, just kidding. Turns out I won't be working. And those two experiences just really drove home that technology is not a friendly industry for women. And it just really made me not want to be here anymore. I mean, especially because they were both women, like that's just not cool.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Women's Tech Radio. Remember, you can get links to any apps or links discussed in the show by going to jupiterbroadcasting.com and do the show drop down to Women's Tech Radio. You can also email us, wtr@jupiterbroadcasting.com.
You can follow us on Twitter at HeyWTR and look for us anywhere podcasts are distributed. Thanks for listening.